One of the coolest shows this season by far has been Sing Yesterday for me, a seemingly nonchalant drama by the amazing Doga Koba. This adaptation follows a manga from Kei Tomi, who has written things like Akane, which I have read and quite enjoyed, and also directed by Yoshiyuki Fujiwara, who has done a bunch of other Doga Koba bangers like New Game, Engaged to the Unidentified, and Jijebu. Also has a random credit for AOT. But none of these shows are anything like Sing Yesterday for me. It's only 3 episodes in at the time of this recording, and I have no qualms already touting this show to potentially be my anime of the season. There's so much to talk and think about with this show, and since there's 3 episodes at the time of this recording, let's discuss 3 different themes and aspects of the show that I love about it. Directing for me has always been about the composition of the shot, among many other things, like making sure movement is clear, space, pacing, but whenever there is foreground or background elements used to add subtlety or subtext, I'm all about it, and Sing Yesterday has no shortage of those moments.
向こうの非常勤3ヶ月だけだったんか。
そう、すぐ高校の仕事が見つかって。でも、変わってないね。
Even a very nonchalant shot like this, with the 2 main characters, Rikuo and Shinako, talking in a cafe, is really rich if you look at these 2 foreground elements. Yes, I'm going to talk about 2 stupid, blurry glasses, because hey, this has really good composition. The focus of the shot should be the 2 talking characters, which they have here. One to the right, and one to the left. It's basically symmetrically cut so that we know where both of them are, and their relationship to each other, sitting across and talking like good old friends. Their motions and movements are very simple, and it's very clear what they are doing at every moment of the scene. And when they do close-ups, it's not confusing at all where they are in relation to each other. But the little spice of this shot is the frame. At the edges are these dumb glasses that are getting in the way. However, they are actually doing a lot to help set up shape to the shot. It would otherwise look pretty empty without, well, anything in these spaces, literally, but also, it foregrounds the focus of the shot too. Both glasses staring at each other, just like Riko and Shinako. Let's not even mention the arrows of the signs and the direction of the straw that guides us towards the left of the screen, towards Rikuo, the one who speaks first. It's all just simple beauty in very small details. And to top it all off, there's even thematic fretting in these 2 damn glasses. Rikuo's glass is full. Well, so is Shinako's, but Rikuo's glass is visibly full with Coke or something. And well, what happens and what we learn about him really suggests how full he is of emotions and self-loathing and regret, and he's very open about it. Shinako, on the other hand, is very transparently full, almost empty if you squint, and that relates too because we later learn Shinako is also full of a lot of burden, but it's, as you can guess, not on the surface, and you'll miss it if you squint. Alright, I think I've literally had enough thinking about these 2 stupid glasses. There's also that really sick park shot that is full of spoilers, so I'll just not talk about that. And speaking of not talking, that is kind of my next topic. Silence so far has been such a strong emotional core for Sing Yesterday to utilize, not only in the absence of a soundtrack for much of the show, but also between dialogue. There's so much said in what's not said, and letting everything else, like the characters' expressions, the directing, and sometimes even the lack of music, speak for the emotional intensity of the scene. Obviously, there is also the other side, with having great musical tracks to heighten emotions, which does happen in this show, but I think the evident lack of it is really cool in the way it's used. Let's use a scene from episode 2 this time.
しなこ
Shinako, the secondary or primary heroine, depending on who you're rooting for, has this really intense scene as she's walking home. I'm not even going to mention how much I love background elements like having the train move opposite her as she's moving away from it. But the main thing is just how quiet this scene is. Obviously, apart from this damn train, we literally just hear footsteps. And nothing has been said yet. And nothing will be said even after we get her swinging by at a park. We see the cherry blossoms, a very prominent symbol, and still no real focus of sound. Even the flashback is literally a stupid transition cut noise and footsteps. It's so quiet, and we feel how inert and alone Shinako feels to the point where, when Rikuo cuts in, it's a surprise to us as much as it is to her. It's so beautiful in its presentation and so real in presenting what kind of mindset she has. It's just by yourself, and you don't expect someone to cut in and be there. And then there's the utter silence, the silence between conversations, which I've been reading many people cite just how real it is to have these awkward pauses in conversations and having nothing be said and just waiting. Which is very true, but I think for me, it's also the same effect of having these muted scenes. It lets every word said just kind of linger and hit you different than if there was some epically sad music. Let's just use the same scene since it's so damn emotional.
髪切ったんか
うんちょっとね
ほうけた感じじゃん何かあったん
桜を見てたの
Every word exchanged has the characters take a beat before answering, and each beat is another added silence, but also a way for the characters and us to really take in what's being said. Even the small talk is somewhat awkward and fiddling around what Rikuo really wants to say, and the pauses help add that effect. When Shinako is explaining herself, the show has to wait for Rikuo to answer before we get more information, which not only lets this beautiful OST settle in,
嫌になるな人間そんな変わるもんじゃないのに月日ばっかどんどん過ぎて
but also the impact of the words. The beats between even allow for background noise like the swing to add ambiance. One of my favorite moments of this kind of silence has to be in episode 3, when the tension is just so palpable in the silence and the beat before the next line. In this case, it even transitions really well into the ending, which is my next point. It's kind of a cop-out that I chose to talk about the ending instead of like the symbolism of the sakura trees, or the theme of illusions, or the pacing, or the character dynamics, or really anything else. But damn, I just really like the ending. And I mean this both in the song, but also the ending sequence. It has a special place in my heart, considering they also forgot to do an opening because there's literally no opening so far, but also because each episode has a different ending. The first two endings are different in that the first half of the song is sung in episode 1, and then they actually just did the second half for episode 2, which is something, I don't often see or hear. That's really cool. But the coolest thing is the corkboard. Each episode has its own special board, along with a recap of the episode told through very specific scenes in that particular episode. One of my friends put it really well in saying that it puts emphasis on what it wants you to remember and focus on as you think about what you watched, which is a really brilliant move that I agree is what it's doing. The other thing is the surrounding objects. The first episode had a small motif about taking pictures, which is why the focus is literally that. And there's this one scene with smoking, so I guess throw that lighter in. But the second episode is kind of packed with themes of school and also the sakura tree. So we have those related objects lying about. The third episode takes that one step forward with having plot relevant objects ripped in half, a perfume bottle, I think, and a crow feather, which is symbolic of Haru since she was a big part of this episode in a lot of ways. It's just, again, these small details and very nice quality of life and care put into the show, even down to the point of the ending sequence, which really makes this whole series special and so amazing. I can't recommend this show enough. It's a drama show, yes, but it's such a real and tense and emotionally potent drama that's not overstepping its bounds, but is doing and showing these characters and situations with so much care that it's kind of hard not to be enthralled by everything and by what's happening. It's so damn good if you're down to watch a relatively slower and mellow show that is somehow still so exciting and flavorful. Also, there's tiny extras like after the show that are actually really important, so I really recommend looking those up because they actually matter and adds a little bit of context and even characterization despite not being technically a after post-credit scene thing, so that's kind of weird, but yeah. But anyways, thank you for watching. If you're still watching, this is definitely not a dead channel, am I right?